Hello everyone. Today we are going to learn how to configure mapping lists in Inform Voice. Let's go to our Inform Voice Administrator utility, and in order to configure mapping lists we have to go to the General tab, open the list of properties by clicking on this plus sign and locating the item called mapping lists. Let's open it up and we will find 5 types of mapping lists. The first one is address mapping. The best way to explain address mapping is to use an example. Our sample company has 3 offices, one in Chicago, one in Orlando, and one in Las Vegas. Each one has its own station for the operator with a specific station number. But what I would like is that every user can dial just one digit and call the proper operator of his office or her office automatically. So that's the purpose of the address mapping list. So let's open up a new mapping list and create a mapping list for the Chicago office. So we will add an entry. We need to define the type of mapping that we want. In this case, we will go use the operator type because this is mainly what we want. We want to replace a single digit with the extension number of the operator. There are other types which we can add to the same mapping list for different conversions that we want to make. We will add the 0 here and we will define what is the station number of the operator for Chicago. Now I will do something similar for Orlando, but now Orlando has 2001 as operator. As you also can see, there is a define rule button which allows me to create a rule based on the number I will dial to convert it to the destination. In this case, it's not necessary, but it's available. And there is also a test window in which I can apply my number and see if the rule is actually executing what I want. And finally, let's do the one for Las Vegas so we can complete the full example. So it's the operator, 9. In our case, Las Vegas has a different operator number. Now that I created a mapping list, I need to assign them to the stations. So I go back to my mapping list here, and now I will see a stations tab here. So I will add, in this case, all the stations for Chicago. So how do I find them easily? I filter the search, and then I just select them all. Let's do another one. Stations, add. I filter by Orlando, and I select them all. If you want to find out if a specific station has an address mapping applied, you just go to the station. Let's look at this one, and you will find an address mapping tab that will show you that there is a mapping list assigned to that station. The next list we're going to talk about is a PSTN, a failover mapping list, which is here. When we have different offices, like in this example, and we have those offices connected via WAN links, and one of those WAN links fail, station to station calls between those two offices will fail. PSTN failover mapping allows the system to failover to a PSTN trunk and make the call using the PSTN network. So the PSTN mapping list needs to define the station to outbound number conversion in order for the destination to be reached. So we will add a mapping for my company here. And I need to define how do I reach each extension number range from the outside. In this case, it's easy because each one has a DID number. So I use 1XXX as the extension number for Chicago, and I define a rule that simply prepends this number with the area code and office code. I can add a rule for Orlando the same way. And let's do Vegas. Now, there might be a case in which there is no DID number for the extension, but you can put a fixed number that leads to the auto attendant of that office. Okay. So now that we have a list defined, I will make sure that my local area networks have the PSTN failover checkbox enabled, because this allows the PSTN failover to take place. Now, let's make a note regarding this particular environment. We have only one unified communication manager, one inform voice server. Everything is controlled by this inform voice server. Even if we have offices in different cities, the control signals will end up in only one location. So if the one link fails, the trunks will fail, everything will fail. This example is more intended for multiple unified communication managers in the different offices, providing redundancy and survivability. Inform Voice SMB will soon be able to support secondary UCMs in order to do this. But I wanted to show you the general idea of the feature, but also explain that this feature doesn't make quite sense in this particular environment with just one server. The next list we are going to talk about is the speed dial. Speed dial simply allows the users to dial an abbreviated number instead of a full number. The speed dial codes need to start with a star, as with any other feature code in this system. Now, the feature codes that are already defined in the system start with 6 through 9. So we have to consider that when we select what it will be our speed dial code range. Also, we need to consider how many abbreviated codes we are going to have for per user, let's say. So let's say we're going to have 10. So we could use a digit code that starts with star 1 and then a third digit from 1 to 0, so we have 10. Now we need to apply this list to one or multiple stations. So we will give it a name because we will apply this list to sales. Now when we define this full number, it has to be the number that will be dialed by the user if the user doesn't use a speed dial code. So if it's an external call, I need to use the access code. And if it's international call, I need to dial the prefix for international calls, and then I need to dial my country code, and then I need to dial the number I would like to call. This is an example of a number in Argentina because this customer has customers in Argentina and he wants to reach them. Now, once I click OK, I can open it up again, and now I can select the stations that I want this list to be applied. So we can add, and let's say we can apply it to the sales group. So sales is 1004, 1007, 1009, 204, 207, 209, 304, 307, 309. The whole sales group of the whole company. And that's it. This is the way we do it. Let's say we want to create another speed dial list for the tech support group in Orlando. Now I can use the same 1-1, and the number I'm going to call is a number in Orlando, let's say 321 555 1234. Now I can apply this to a tech support station in Orlando. Let's say this one. As you can see, now a station 2002 will dial star 11, and the salespeople will dial star 11, and they are going to reach a different destination. Next, we are going to talk about the external phone book. The external phone book looks very similar to a speed dial list, but with certain differences. First one is that this external phone book is system-wide. It doesn't apply to only certain extensions. It applies to all of them. As for the speed dial code, basically applies the same rules as with anything else. It is a star code, so it needs to start with a star. We can add up to 3,000 external phone book entries, but I mean, we need to consider what is the digit we are going to use and how many digits are we going to use. So let's say we use 3 digits in total plus the star. And let's say we start with a digit 4 and 2 digits. And so this will allow us 100 external phone book entries here. The full number is also different as with the speed dial case. The full number is an E164 formatted number. So it means it starts with a plus the country code, plus the area code, plus the full number. So for example, this is the number I'm going to use. And finally, I can add a name. The purpose of the name is to be displayed in display phones, and also if this number calls into the company, the system can display the name on the extension or the client MPC where this call is ringing. I will describe a little bit more about that feature in a second. But let's complete the entry. And let's talk about something else we can do on the external phone books. If the customer has a long list of numbers, it doesn't make any sense to add them manually, so we can import them. Now I will show you how to export the external phone book we just created, so you can take a look at the format, and eventually you can add the rest of the entries you want and import them back. So let's go to the File menu, let's export, and now we will export the phone book. I will export, and I will, let's say, put a number phone, name phone book, save it, and now let me show you how it looks like. Here you can see a title line and the actual entry. So you can keep adding 401, 402, 403, the E164 numbers and the names, and then you import them back. Now, as for the function of displaying the name when the caller comes in, well, we just need to enable that feature. And there are two ways to do it. I can do it system-wide using the system initialization settings and adding an entry here. Or I can use it only on the trunk I want. So let's say this trunk, which is the trunk in Chicago. So I can go to the settings tab and I can add a specific setting that says caller ID lookup from external phone book, and as you can see it's disabled by default. I enable it. So with this I can receive the caller ID through the zip trunk in Chicago and then display that name on display phones or UC client. The last list, which is also a mapping list, is the DID mapping list. We already discussed the DID mapping list when we talked about trunks, so I will refer you to the corresponding video. Summarizing, we learned how to assign the different mapping lists in Inform Voice, like the address mapping, the external phone book, the DID mapping, the PSTN failover mapping, and the speed dial list. I thank you, and I see you in the next video.